Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Mobile App Academy. This is our live building series where we show you how to build and configure mobile apps on the Now platform. My name is David Ha, and I'm an outbound product manager here at ServiceNow, and I'll be your host for today's session. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome to the session. We have product experts here to provide guidance, best practices, and answer any questions that come up along the way. And then we do host these academies once every month at 10 a.m. Pacific. We are actually changing up our schedule recently, and we will now be moving forward with just one academy every month, every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Make sure to check out our latest community posts for any latest updates on that. But just in case you are familiar, just want to point out a few resources that we do have available. If you're new to mobile, we recommend that you check out some of our self-enablement resources that you can find on our community site, such as our Essentials training blog and mobile FAQs. And then we also do have a plethora of other resources such as labs and mobile trainings on Now Learning, as well as a playlist to all of our past app academies, which you can find sessions like mobile agent quick start guides, getting started with Now Mobile, and so much more. But with that being said, let's get started with today's topic, in which we further explore getting started with Mobile App Builder. Today, we're going to be deep diving into building a navigation function using the App Builder. So how do I enable my users to be able to navigate between screens using record information? So just to give a quick example, how do I move from a work order task to maybe the caller details of that record? Okay. And just to quickly review for today's schedule, we'll start it off with a quick overview on navigations. Then we'll quickly jump into the exercise and then wrap up with any Q&A. Okay. But with that being said, let's jump into the quick overview. So in our last few sessions, we've covered write-back actions, smart buttons. I've even showed you how to build a list from scratch, right? But in today's session, we're going to focus on navigation functions, which give your users the ability to navigate between their mobile screens. You can see on my left screenshot here that this is a work order task record. And there is an arrow icon on the parent field. And that indicates to me that the user can actually tap on that field and be able to navigate further to another screen. If you tap on it, it will take you to the work order of this task. Since there might be many tasks associated to a single work order, you can see the parent. And so that user can tap on it to take further action on it if needed, like create a new work order task related to this work order. Okay. In other common use cases, you might also see things like, you can navigate to an employee directory, or maybe, jump into the caller details, or maybe the assigned to person and see the profile information on that person, right? So those are just a couple common use cases. But for today's use case, we are going to build a navigation that allows me to navigate from my work order task to the parent work order. And we'll be leveraging the out-of-the-box field service mobile app to do that. In our past academies, we've created a custom list screen that shows me my critical tasks, which are just P1s and P2 work order tasks. We're going to further configure that screen so that I can have this navigation here. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'll share a new screen, and then we'll jump into my instance. Okay, so I think you should be able to see my screen here now. Okay. So to get started, let me show you the out-of-the-box experience. This is my field service mobile app, right? Out of the box, it gives you things like my schedule, my task map, and be able to see all your work order tasks that are assigned to you. I think in our first or second mobile app builder series, part of this series, we built a critical task list screen. And this just shows me all of my P1 and P2s that are assigned to me. And if I tap into one of them, you can see that there are some details on this record. You can see the parent, the location, open by, and so forth. I want to be able to tap on this field specifically for this one here for parent. You can see that I can kind of copy and paste it, but not do much further on that. If I want to be able to navigate further into any one of these fields, I need to configure a navigation. And then I also need to configure a screen for it. I don't currently have a list that shows me all of my um, all my work orders. And so I'll have to build a list screen and then build a navigation and associate the navigation back to this screen. Okay. So to get started, I'm going to jump into App Builder and build a list screen for my work orders first. Okay. And so we'll jump into the field service mobile scope. And then we're going to create a new screen. Type list. And then we can just call this, work order lists. Work order list. We'll give it a random icon just because icon doesn't show up. Since we're just going to navigate directly from here. We're not going to put it anywhere. So we'll just give it a bookmark and then we'll save. And then to further create this screen, we're going to have to create a screen segment. I'll just call this work order screen segment, save. And then we'll create the stream, which contains your data item. Work order list stream, and then we'll create this data item here. We'll call this work order data item, and the table that's going to pull it from is from the work order table. I'm not going to set any conditions for now, and I'll explain a little bit later why. I'll save it for now. If I just wanted to configure a regular list screen and just show, all work orders that are assigned to me, I can do that. But that's not my use case. My use case is I just want to be able to navigate from my work order task, click on this parent, and then take me into this specific parent record. I don't want a list of work orders. I just want to see this one specific record. In order to get this workflow to work, you do have to build the entire list screen. Typically, you can create the record screen and then just skip this list screen step. But I'll show you in a few steps why the list screen is necessary. And the main reason is because you need parameters, but we'll get there. Okay. So now that I've completed my data item, I'm gonna go back here and then now configure my cards and templates. So how do I visualize this data item, right? I know that I want work order, but how do I get it on a card? So we're going to create a new list item config. And we'll call it work order list item config. Again, this is going to pull from the work order table. I won't set any conditions, and then we're going to create a new card. This card will allow me to decide what fields will show up on this card, right? So we'll call this the work order view config, which is just another name for card. And then the card template, just to save some time, I'm just going to use one of our starter templates. What I mean by starter templates is when you go back to your instance and open up Mobile Card Builder, you'll notice that there's a tab for starter templates, and it's basically pre-built templates for you to use that you can either use as a starting point, because maybe building a template from scratch might take some time. But just to give you an idea of like what templates are out there to take advantage of, right? So if I tap on starter template, you can see that there's, I think, 12 or 9 templates here. I think in Utah, there's going to be more templates available. I think up towards 15 to 20 templates. So something to look forward to. I just want this very basic template 01 here. I'm not going to open this. I just wanted to see what the name was of this template so that I can go back into App Builder and then choose that specific template. I know it's called template 01, this one here. And so I'll select that and apply. Okay. And now for my list screen, I have to jump into this card and decide what fields I want on this card. So on this card record, I'll jump into Mobile Card Builder. I could have done it here, but I think it's just faster to jump directly from the record itself. And then you can see that it inherited that card template that we selected, template 01, but all these fields are blank. And so Now I have to fill in the fields that I want. Um, you don't have to use every single one of these values. If you leave it blank, it will just show up as blank. So I just want to show like maybe 4 fields. So let's show, oh, notice that I can't click here from that field. What's going on here? The reason is because you haven't selected the table on App Builder. If I scroll down here, you'll notice that the table is blank. It doesn't know what fields to show because you haven't set a table. So we'll go in here and click Save. I don't think this automatically refreshes. So I think I'm gonna have to, yeah, I'll have to close this and then reopen this in Card Builder. Okay, so now you can see that I can select the fields that I want. This will be number. Our second field could show, the state field. The third field could be, short description. And then maybe this last field could be something like company. So I know who ordered this work order. Okay, so I just have a simple card that shows me 4 fields. At this point, I now need to build the most important screen for this flow, which is a detail screen. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my list item config, and I'm going to create an embedded screen so that I can attach a record screen to it. I'm going to create new here and create record screen. Your record screen, that gives you options to select from details, activity stream, and related lists, right? So we'll call this work order record. We're going to create a new card, but we don't have to assign a new template. We can use the exact same template. And so we'll call this work order view config for details for record. The first card that we used was for the list. When you tap into that list, you get the record, right? The template, I'm going to use template 01 again. And then we'll save. Whoops. It says that there's an invalid input. I can just scroll to my left here, and I can see the red dots where an error might be present. So I'll click here and I'll look down, see if there's any issues. Doesn't like there's any red dots here. So I'll click into the second one. What is it missing? It's missing an icon. So that's the reason why we saw the error message. Again, I'm going to select a random one because this icon won't actually show up, but it is necessary to build the screen. And then we'll click onto this last one to see if there's any missing fields, and there's not, so I can save now. Okay. So now, at this point, I have my record screen, but this is an empty record screen. I now need to create tabs, which are segments. I need a segment for details. When you have only one segment, you won't actually see these tabs. It's only once you have 2 or more that these tabs will show up. It will just look like a regular list screen if you only have one segment. Okay, so I'm going to create a new record segment. And the embedded screen, a new embedded screen, will be a details screen. And so we'll call this work order details. We'll select an icon again. The data is going to pull from the work order table. And then I can just pick what screen fields I want on this. So for the fields that I have here on my card, what other fields do I want to show for my parent, right? So I can add some fields underneath. Let's show things like location. We'll go back into my detail screen, add another screen field for maybe open by, that could be another field. Open by. And then we can just leave it simple like that. We'll just add 2 fields to this details. But at this point, my entire list screen and my record screen are complete. So I have my list screen ready for work orders. let's check this out just to show you what this looks like so far. I'm going to now associate this list screen to my work order launcher screen, right, which is my home page. I'm gonna put it on this UX section here. It's a horizontal section, icon section, and I'm gonna just put it to the right of my group task. And it's just for a reference point for me to see what it looks like so far to make sure everything works before I move on to the next step. Okay, so let's go back to my home, and I need to open up this launcher screen here, which is called my work. If we look up my work, this is a launcher screen, which is the right one. So we'll open this up. And then on this screen here, I just have to scroll down into the launcher sections and then open up, there's three. I want this one at the very top, which is called my work. And then you can see that there's 4 screens attached to this launcher section. I'm going to add a 5th one, which is the my work list screen that we just built. And we call that we called it work order. What did I call it? I think I called it work order list. Pretty sure it's this one. So this is why it's important to use unique naming. That way it's easier to find your records once you build them. So let's go ahead and save that and do a refresh. And then we'll check it out. Okay, so yeah, so this has the 4 fields that I have. I think the company's not showing up because the specific work order might not have a company. Oh, so you can see that this one does, Acme. I'm just using dummy data, and so not all of these records have companies, but it does have the 4 fields that I want. If I tap into any one of these, you can see that I have my 2 detail screens fields, but it looks like my card doesn't have anything. And the reason for that is because I forgot to select the fields on that card. So let's go back into App Builder and remember to fill in the fields for the that card. So let's open up work order list. And we'll scroll all the way down to my details, record screen, sorry. And then this card here, let's open this up and then jump into card builder. Although I used the exact same template, I forgot to jump back in here and select the fields that I wanted. It'd be nice to have like a replicate from initial screen so that, if I just want the cards to be the exact duplicate of each other, I would just tap on one button and it would fill the fields in for me. Similar to Mobile Studio, but we don't quite have that feature yet. Okay, so let's fill in the fields. You can see that I can't tap on this. So again, I have to go back into App Builder and set the table, which is work order. And then we'll save. And then we'll close out of card builder and reopen it. So it's good to make these mistakes just so that I can kind of show you the troubleshooting process of, where are my mistakes? Where do I go find it? Where are some hints and tips to go find where my issues are, right? So here we'll select the number, state, short description, and then this last field could be company. And then we'll save. Okay, so if I just do a refresher, it should have my changes. There it is. Okay. So now at this point, it's good that I showed my list screen because I didn't know if it was working correctly or not. Now that I see that it works correctly, oops, let's do a refresh from the home screen. That way the changes are effective across this. Okay. Now I'm ready to build my navigation because I know that my list screen works and my record screen works. So let's go back into my app builder and go home. I'm going to create a new function. Okay. We're going to create this new function here. And we'll call this navigate to this work order. Specifically, we're navigating to the record screen. And so I'm going to name it specifically that. We want to skip the list screen. We want to go directly into that record. So if I click into this work order task, for example, I don't want to see multiple parents, right? I just want to see this specific one, 9001. So let's change the type to navigation. The context is going to be record. You only use global when you want to navigate to launcher screens. This global navigation is more of a common use case if you want to build like multiple landing pages, right? So maybe you don't want to have, maybe you have a lot of launcher screens that your user needs access to, and you don't want it to overflood your navigation tab down here. You don't have to have it shown on a tab. You can just create a navigation function and navigate from one of these icons, for example. I can create a navigation, tap on it, and it'll take me to that new home screen or to another landing site, basically. So that's what this use case is for. For our use case, we want record because it's trying to pull record information from this work order task to be able to pass and find this specific parent record. Okay. We're getting a question in the chat. I wasn't able to join the early portion of this. Is there a recorded session? Yes, so this is automatically recorded. We are a little behind in uploading videos, but just know that all the videos will be uploaded this week, okay? For all of our mobile app academy, mobile app builder series, sorry. This will be our 5th video. Okay, so I've created a new function. The type is navigation and the context is record, okay? And it's going to ask, well, what screen do you want to navigate to? It's going to be the screen that we built, right? It's that new list screen for parent. I'm going to select the list screen, and I'll show you what the experience looks like in a bit. I kind of want to show you what it looks like broken, and then we'll fix it later. So let's select the, what did I call it? Work order list. We'll apply that. It's going to ask what table that's pulling from, which is the work order table. And this is really if you want to apply any conditions, so this doesn't really matter for me. And then lastly, it's going to ask what are the redirection fields. And if I were to create a redirection field right now, it's not going to show me anything here, really. You won't really understand what this UI parameter is because we haven't created any. I can't select from a list of UI parameters. And so before I move forward, I need to go back. The navigation needs a variable in order to pass to be able to navigate to this parent screen. And so I need to create both a data item parameter to define whether it's a string or it's an integer or something else. For us, it's a string. That's my data item parameter. And then I need to create a UI parameter to define how that field is going to show up, right? What is the behavior? So let's go back to my screens and open up this work order task. This is called critical task. Oh, sorry, no. We want this on the parent, which is called work order. My bad. Work order list. On this list, we go back into my data item. And if we scroll down, there is a thing for parameters. This is my data item parameters. I want to be able to pass the sys ID of this. And so we're going to create a new data item parameter called sys ID, data item parameter. Let's give it unique naming so it's easier for me to find. I'll call it mobile app academy, MAA. The type is string. So this variable is going to be a string type. Okay, so we'll save this. And then if we go back into my list screen, if I scroll down here, there's a section for a UI parameter. I'm going to map that data item parameter, which is just an empty variable, and I'm going to define what the behavior is going to do, right? The behavior of this variable, do I want it to pop up? Doesn't really matter to me because I'm just automatically passing it over. Is the source going to be user input or autofill? I'm just going to rename this sys ID UI parameter for Mobile App Academy. Okay. I'm not going to touch any of these because none of these inputs matter, because you typically use this when you want the user to fill out like a screen of inputs, like a pop-up shows up and it's maybe like a write back action, right? And you want them to fill in a bunch of fields on a form. This isn't quite the use case. And so I'm going to leave these as default, and I'll show you why these won't matter in a second. So we'll save this. And the last thing I need to do is I need to map that empty variable that I created for the data item and map it to this UI parameter, which defines the behaviors. So I'm going to choose my screen data parameter mappings. And I'm going to select that data item that we called, sys ID that we called data item sys ID. What do we call it? MAA. So this is the reason why I added the MAA at the end. It's easier for me to find. We'll apply that. And now my two parameters are mapped. Okay. Now, when I create my navigation, I can pass this mapping over to the navigation, and it knows to navigate to the right screen. Okay. So now at this point, I can go back to my home on Mobile App Builder. We'll open up that function again. I don't know if it actually saved because there were some required fields. Let's check. I think I called it navigate to work order. So it didn't actually save. I think there were some required fields and it didn't allow me to save. So we'll just create a new one here. Okay. So we'll call this navigate to work order MAA. Again, the type is navigation, context is record, destination screen. We'll select, I'll break this for now. So let's just select work order list. This is the wrong screen, but I'm just going to select this just to show you the behavior. If you automatically thought that you just navigate to the list, I'll show you what that looks like. And then I'll show you what the correct screen is. Okay. And then the table of this is going to be work order, no conditions, and then we'll save. And then we'll create a new redirection destination field. It's going to ask, what is that UI parameter? What is that variable that you created earlier? We'll choose the one that we called. When you see this empty screen, give it a few seconds to load, and then the search bar will work. So I think my instance is just lagging a little bit. Let's give it a second. Yeah, man. Oh, there it is. Okay. That was weird. So now I was going to ask, look up your UI parameter, which we called sys for Mobile App Academy. And then it's going to ask, which field do you want to navigate from on, and we want to be able to navigate from the parent field. Okay, so we'll save that. So now at this point, I've created my navigation. So the last step is just to associate this navigation back onto this field here, which lives on my critical task list, right? So how do I get it over here? I need to go to my home and open up critical task list. Tasks, we call it critical tasks. It's a list screen, so we'll open this up. This actually lives in my record screen. Sorry, I should have clicked record, but I can also navigate from here on my left-hand nav. Here's my record screen. I scroll down here and jump into the screen segments, into the details. This is the details. And then Here I can see all my fields that are associated to this table. I want to add this navigation into the field function of this detail screen. We'll create new, and we'll call this navigate to order. The display won't matter because this won't actually show up. So we'll just copy and paste. And then it's going to ask what field are you navigating from on this detail screen. And so we're going to select the parent field. And it's going to ask what the function is, which is our navigation. Again, we'll give this a second to load. Navigate to work order. And then we'll save. Oh, clicked it a little too soon. Okay, so now at this point, let's refresh and see what this experience looks like. Okay. We're going to tap into the critical task. And then you're going to notice that there's now an arrow popping up. So if I tap on this, first, you're going to see that this is showing up your UI parameter for sysid. And then if I click on search, it's going to show you a list of work orders. Not quite what I'm looking for, right? First of all, when I tap on this, I don't want to see the screen. It's showing this behavior because this is what I defined as the default on my UI parameter, right? We said that it was going to be, if we look back at that UI parameter, let's go to home. And this is a work order list. On this list screen, right? We created a UI parameter here. And it's saying these are the default values I set. It's user input. It's asking for the sysid that it's going to be a text input type. And you know, I didn't touch any of this because I'm going to ignore this. In order to bypass this completely, I want this sysid, which is the correct sysid, to automatically pass when I tap on this so that the user doesn't have to tap on search. It's taking me to the correct screen, but I don't want the user to tap on this. I want to hide this. So how do I do that? We go back to App Builder and we open up the navigation. There is actually a setting on that navigation that allows you to automatically pass this sysid or whatever value that you're trying to pass. So if we look at navigate to work order, there is this little setting called auto populate screen parameters. Okay, so if we save this and then I do a refresh, you'll notice that it'll automatically take me to that list screen, right? So now I fixed that experience. The next step is it's taking me to the list screen, which is not what I want. I want it to take me to this exact 90,001 work order. And so we actually associated the wrong screen. We don't want the list screen. We want the record screen. Okay, so let's the destination here is currently list. So let's remove that and then select work order record. Work order record. Apply, save. So now if I refresh, I tap on this, it'll take me to 90,001. Okay. And so I now have my completed experience. When I tap into any one of my assigned critical tasks, and my user wants to be able to see additional information on the parent record, which is this 90,001 parent, I can now see additional details on it. If I want to build further actions on this work order, I can do that, right? If I want to be able to create a work order task, I can do that. If I want to add additional fields on the record screen on this, I can do that. But I think this is a pretty simple example just to get you started on your navigations. Okay. Are there any questions from the audience before we wrap up here? We'll use a couple minutes to answer any questions. And I do want to remind you all that we are now pushing back our bi-weekly series to now once a month. We will host these App Academies every once a month, every Tuesday, on the last Tuesday of every month. And so today's the 28th. I think the next session will be March 28th. Okay, and then we'll update these dates on our community site as well. I'm not seeing any questions, and so we can probably wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining us today. If you found this session helpful, please let us know in our post-session survey. There's going to be a couple of questions asking what topics you want us to explore in the future. We love getting that feedback, so make sure you share that with us if you can. And also make sure to subscribe to the mobile community forum and register to our App Academy series. That way you can get notifications on the latest content and updates on future sessions. But with that being said, thank you everyone for joining us in our App Academies, and we'll see you again next month. Thank you, everyone.